Hey, personal finance class, James Jackson here, your instructor. Once again, I am deeply, deeply sorry for leaving y'all hanging at class on Wednesday night. Um, my deepest apologies. That's not something that I typically do. I should have planned ahead. That was definitely a rookie mistake, and I've definitely learned my lesson there. So I wish I could have done this with you in class so you'd be able to ask any questions while I share the rest of this wealth building strategy. But like I said, I promised you all that I would go ahead and wrap it up one way or another. I wanted to lay out this strategy for you. So I'm gonna get right to it, but first I want to do a quick little recap of what I talked about in Monday's class. And I talked about just your mindset. And when in that mindset, we started with your goals, goal setting. Right, the first day of class, we laid out 50 goals, and you laid out, ranking those goals, 1, 3, 5, 10-year plus goals. You identified what your top 5 1-year goals and why those goals are important to you and who you must become in order to accomplish those goals. We also talked about in order to become that person, it comes down to who you're surrounded by, what you're listening to, what you're watching, because it's that influence that's going to dictate the path that you're going to go on, right? So you look at your goals and then you look at how you're being influenced. You want to make sure those things aligned. And so if you can't change the people around you, then you have to change the people around you. Got to change what you watch, got to change what you're listening to in order to be sure you stay focused on the goals. I don't want you to identify yourself by your career, unless you're, one of those professionals like a doctor, a lawyer, teacher, educator, what have you. Those type of maybe those are something that you would like to be identified by, but not a lot of people want to be identified as a customer service representative, right? So those goals really help you identify who you are and the type of impact and purpose that you're bringing into this world, right? So that's the mindset that we talked about. And then we got into the numbers. Like I said, building out your wealth strategy is not about becoming a millionaire or a billionaire. Building wealth is just simply becoming financially independent. And financially independent to you just simply means being able to live your life without the worry of any finances. So you can just do you and just know that your money is taken care of because of what you've built. Either that's through a job, or career, or through your small business, or through investing, what have you. And so what I'm going to do is kind of lay it out. This is the wealth strategy to keep in mind. I'm not going to focus on anything in particular as far as how you generate that income specifically, but what you do with that income once you bring it in. And leave it up to you to identify what is the passions that you want to follow. Is it starting a job? Is it identifying a career? Whatever that is, but I'm going to lay out the numbers, be sure you have everything in place in order to establish and in order to kind of take a look at what you're doing. So I apologize. I look down because I have my little miniature golf putting green right here in my way, so I want to be sure I don't step on it as I write on this whiteboard. I got a small little corner here for my whiteboard. I usually write my goals on here. I took a picture um, and then I erased it so I can make room to kind of go over this strategy with y'all. See, that's how much I care about y'all right there. I just erased everything so I can lay this out for you. So here we go. All right, enough of this talk. So what I started with, of course, is the 70-10-10-10 strategy, right? The 70-10-10-10, you folks, 70% is on how you live, right? Then there's 10%, you're paying yourself first, which is the savings, right? Then you invest into your futures. The other 10, the last 10, is the law of reciprocity or charity, right? And so for every dollar you spend, you want to be sure that you're only living off of 70%. And then immediately you're paying yourself 10%, right? So, and you want to get it to 6 months, right, of living expenses. That could take up to 3 to 5 years to get to that level. So this building wealth strategy is not short term. This wealth strategy I'm going to go through can take anywhere from 30 to 40 years. You can accelerate it if you want, depending on the benchmark you set for yourself, the goals that you reach for yourself. But like I said, this wealth strategy is equipped for anybody to reach and to attain, right? And so, so it's going to take about good 3 to 5 years to build up a 6-month nest egg. And this is not, I'm not a fan of calling it emergency funds. For me, this is 6 months of living expenses to give you freedom. So whether you want to change careers or your career said no to you, so you have to go searching for a job, you're not in panic mode. You have 6 months to go out and identify what your next gig is going to be. In emergencies, you want to calculate into your living expenses because, like I said, here's the deal. It's going to be, you want to calculate in anything that could happen in life. Maintenance on your car, you got to do an oil change, or you got not oil change, but maybe a major car repair. Say you got to replace a transmission, or a major health bill because you got in a car accident, you get sick, right? And I'll get into all that as far as insurance. But you want to properly prepare for whatever life gives you, because life be life sometimes, right? So 3 to 5 years of living expenses. Once you surpass 3 to 5 years of living expenses, you want to start investing here, right? So you can start now adding into where you're already investing in, whether here it be a small business, or you got investments happening already. Maybe it's a retirement plan or 401k. Or you're just investing in yourself, reading a good book, attending a conference, listening to subscribing to podcasts, or whatever that may be, right? You're already investing in yourself here. That's 10% going there. But now you can start capitalizing, because now that you already have 6 months saved up, there's no reason to continue to build a 6-month savings account and just let it sit, because the reality is 6 months of a savings account doesn't generate a lot of interest. So go ahead and start putting that money to work, right? So you can start investing in that money. So you either add it to what you're already investing in, or what you also can do is put that into a universal life insurance plan. Like I talked about in insurance, whole life insurance is a great investment strategy because it has a cash out option, right? And so a lot of wealthy people will have a retirement plan, they'll have a 401k, they have stock options, they have real estate, right? But they also have this universal life plan where they're paying $200 to $300 a month into a plan. Then over 15, 20 years time, they can cash out of that and have hundreds of thousands of dollars that they can use to live, invest, what have you. So this is like one of the safest investments that you can have, is going into a universal life plan, right? So you can continue building this nest egg up, pouring into here and start reinvesting in here, into any type of investments, or you have your universal life plan, right? So that's the first strategy. What I also laid out for you is the insurance piece, right? So we talked about life insurance, but also when it comes to property insurance or health insurance, one, you want to have proper coverage. Don't always go with the cheapest coverage, because you get what you paid for. The bigger the family, the better coverage you're going to have, right? Children, they get sick all the time. So you want to be sure you're aware of that. Women, it's just the way life goes, usually have more health needs than men do, right? So you want to be sure you are properly covered so you can get regularly checked, right? Be sure that's in place with dental, vision, health, what have you. And so you're not always coming out of your living expenses. This is how you can be have a better, proper budget, is that you are properly covered. No sense of digging in to your living expenses just because you're not properly covered, right? If you're paying, it's better to pay $30 a paycheck for your health care, right? And having the full coverage than paying $15 a paycheck in healthcare. Then all of a sudden circumstances happen, you got to go to the doctor and you get a bill of hundreds or maybe even thousands of dollars that may have been covered, would have been covered if you had better health care, right? Same thing with car insurance. Full coverage. I told you about the story about me going from full coverage to liability once I paid my car off. A month later, I totaled it, right? You don't want to do that to yourself. So have proper coverage. The next thing is just simply be a responsible person. It seems crazy to put that into a wealth strategy, but when it comes to driving safe, just being careful in the world, not being crazy or making any stupid decisions to where you're taking care of your body and taking care of others around you, being a safe driver can save you a lot of money. Easy example is just simply getting a speeding ticket, right? You get a speeding ticket, add points to your record. That record, car insurance gets hold of that record, and then your insurance goes up $100 a month, and that speeding ticket stays on your record for 3 years. That's $3,600 taken out of your living, taken out of saving, taken out of you being able to invest. What better could you have done with that, with the increase in car insurance to help you create a better lifestyle? So you want to be responsible individual. You know, like I said, it's not about how much money you make. It's all about how much you keep, right? And then lastly, I talked about taxes. When it comes to how much you keep, we talked about the difference between deductions and credits. Well, deductions focus on reducing your taxable income, and credits actually reduces the overall tax bill. So this depending on where you are in life, right? If you're looking to buy a home or any type of loan situation, you want to look more at looking to reduce your tax bill than your tax deductions. Now, if you're already owning a home or you're really thriving in your life at the moment and not looking at any type of lending options, then maybe you can start writing off as much as possible and looking at the tax credits. And because of course there's actually more tax deductions than our tax credits, right? But when you look at deductions, all it does is reduces your taxable income, which means it just puts you in a lower tax bracket, and people want to be put in a lower tax bracket because they pay less in taxes. But also reducing your taxable income in the example of purchasing a home, that's what mortgage lenders are going to look at, is your taxable income. If you don't earn enough money, you're not going to qualify the home. They're not going to look at your adjusted gross income. They're looking at your taxable income. So you just want to take a look at that. When you're growing in life, you want to be able to have a good taxable income, right? So that's the first half of the budgeting piece. Now we're going to talk about leverage. And leverage is just the sexier term for credit. Credit is what makes the world go round here in the US, right? It's not about cash. Cash may be king, but it's credit that helps you grow into a better lifestyle, right? Because the better credit you have, the lower the interest rate, the more options you have as far as buying a car, a home, or anything. Being a responsible person, right? Having credit can lower your property insurance as far as like car insurance, right? You can have better opportunities for a job even because they check your credit, right? So you want to be sure you have great credit. So stay on top of your bills, make payments on time, diversify your credit opportunities, going from open credit to closed credit. Have 2 or 3 credit cards, use them wisely. And one of the examples is leverage, right? Is OPM, the idea of other people's money, right? So other people's money is a great strategy, right? So if you want to make an investment, don't want to use your own money, use the bank's money, right? And then just do the math. How much interest I need to pay over time before I have a return on that investment? So say, for example, you have a great investment opportunity. So if you had to invest, $1,000, then over a 12-month time, that investment turns into $2,000. So you get to double your investment, and maybe if you just use other people's money, right? When we talk about a credit card or a home equity line of credit. So when we talked about purchasing a home, or we talked about credit last time, say you have a good home equity line of credit, you're only paying 3% interest on a home equity line of credit, and you only need to make interest fee payments, right? So you don't have to pay the full monthly loan. You can borrow that HELOC, so maybe you're only 3% loan, so you're only paying maybe $360 of interest for that year. So so you invested $360 to make $2,000. So your net return on that is what, $1,640? So you earned $1,640 and you only put up $360, rather than putting up $1,000 and get back $2,000, because then you only made $1,000 here, right? So using other people's money, you've increased your profit because you didn't come out your own pocket. You're paying little to no interest by leveraging someone else's money, right? That's what the wealthy do. They don't use their own money to make investments. They find other opportunities, and that's why credit is king, folks. I mean, it definitely leads the way. So don't look at the coming out of your pocket. You look at what type of leveraged opportunities do I have, whether it be a credit card, whether it be a home equity line of credit, whether it be a personal loan. Secured loans even have a lower credit, lower interest, like a home equity line of credit, right? And so look, what type of leveraged opportunities do you have, right? And speaking of home equity line of credit, purchasing a home. Like I mentioned, those who own a home, their net worth is 10 times someone that doesn't own their home, simply because of the value of the property and the loan to value ratio that exists, the equity that is in the home. So if you own a $500,000 home, but the home is worth $750,000, you have $250,000 of equity in that home, and that equity, of course, if you're doing the assignments, when you're looking at the balance sheet, that's adding $250,000 of equity, net worth, to your overall balance sheet, right? And so it is critical, in order to increase wealth, to increase your leverage, that buying property is key, right? So when you're purchasing a home, as I mentioned, your first time home, apologize for being left-handed. I'm blocking what I'm writing, especially if I'm on video. First time home, make it a starter home. Don't grow into the home. You want to grow out of the home, right? So if it's just you or you and your partner, you have no other family, maybe buy just a one-bedroom condo or a studio condo somewhere, and that's only for a couple of $100,000. And then as you start growing in life and maybe want to start a family, you add in more income. You want to grow into another property because now you need 2, 3, or more bedrooms. Then the goal is that you keep this home and turn this into an investment property, right? Now you're earning, so say you got a one-bedroom condo here in Salt Lake City. The average mortgage of a one-bedroom condo is going to be about $1,200 or so. But to rent a one-bedroom condo, it can come out to $1,700, $1,800, sometimes even $2,000 a month, depending on the location. So let's just say your first home that you're now renting from, you're now getting $500 a month off your first home, right? So now you're built into your budget, whatever you're paying on your second home. Now you have $500 a month of income coming in automatically. You got your investments here. You got your universal life. You got your retirement plan, your small business. What are you investing in here, right? So now you're starting to generate possibly even some dividends here that are being paid out of your investments, right? Maybe I spelled dividends wrong, but you know what that is. Here, let me actually spell this better. Dividends being paid. You have interest being paid here. Now you have rental income being paid here, right? And this is before you even retire. You have $500 a month here, maybe a couple of $100 a month here, right? And let's say you're now investing into a small business. What does that small business look like? Folks, I just made $4,000 this last month in my small business, right? Now, granted, it is my full-time income, right? I don't have a full-time job. I'm earning business, but I started this business part-time. And now I'm averaging $4,000 to $5,000 a month, and I'm now working to double that over the next year with other projects that I have going on, right? This is the possibilities that you can do, all starting out with a basic budgeting strategy, right? It all starts with discipline. All starts right here, the foundation of it all, where you can use this 10, 10, and 10 strategy so you can start creating all these opportunities here, right? And then keep going. How many investment properties can you create? You buy the second one. Like I said, you want to grow into your home. You want to grow out of it, right? That's the key. Don't grow into a home, grow out of it. So if you want to have more children, you're running out of space. All right, guess what? It's time to buy another property. Maybe now you got 2 properties. You know, over the course of time, the average, you can probably accumulate 2 investment properties by going this route. You know, as you start growing a family. So you start growing a family, your child hits, 5 or 6, you start having another child, and now you got a teenager, and then you have one in elementary school, and of course that's creating more room. Maybe you want an office, maybe you want a gym, maybe you just need more space, and you start growing in. So now you got your primary residence, and you got 2 investment properties, and those 2 investment properties can earn you anywhere from $500 to $1,000 extra a month, right? So now you're getting up to $1,500 to $2,000 extra a month. Let that sit in for a minute, because the last piece, when it comes to investment strategy, is when you get to the retirement age, right? So now, if you have the full-time job, or you invested into a 401k or IRA, if you start right now, 25 years old, you're simply putting in $350 a month. And if you're getting at least 8% return on your investment over 40 years time, you're going to have 1.5 mil in your 401k/retirement account. That will give you $3,600 a month to live off of for 20 years. That doesn't include all of this other capital that you created. Maybe you have 2 investment properties, right? And now you have $1,500 a month there, adding to the $3,600 a month. So now you have $5,100 a month. And you got dividends and interest that are being paid out. Maybe that's a couple of $100 a month. So you're over $5,000 a month already. This is just a simple retirement wealth strategy, folks. And then how do you pass this on to your children? Create a great estate plan to where you're constantly accumulating that wealth over and over again, right? And in addition to that, you got your universal life plan that you can cash out on. If you wait long enough, you can almost have, $500,000 in your life insurance plan that you start right here, easily, right? If you start this maybe about 10 years into the 70-10-10-10 strategy, right? You're consistently saving here. It takes 3 to 5 years to get here. Then you start going right here. It's about 10 years in, and then you do this 10 years in for about 25, 30 years. You can have up to $500,000 sitting right there. And what are you going to do with that $500,000? You can cash out of that and then going into something else, right? Either going into an investment, or you can just cash out, throw it into annuities, and get just paid out monthly income there. And another $500,000 being paid out over 20 years, that's another maybe $1,500 a month. Look at that. Over $7,000 a month at age 65. Or maybe you can do this sooner, maybe at age 50. Whatever it is, this is the whole wealth strategy mapped out for you. Chapters 1 through 19 in the book teaches you how to manage all this. This is how you put it all together to where you can create a wealth strategy. Now, with $7,000 a month, with no mortgage payment, no car payment, and all you have are 30-day bills. And maybe you do have a mortgage payment still, right? Maybe you're not quite done with that third house payment. Refinanced it into a 15-year mortgage and you're almost done, but $7,000 a month, and maybe that mortgage payment is around $3,000 a month. You know, still keep it below. You still want to keep your house below 40% of your overall living expenses. The goal is about 35%, right? But that's why I said you just try to stay your home with, you're trying to get a 15-year as far as your home's concerned. Try to get 15-year. And then what if these first and second homes are paid off? That way you're earning the full rent from that. Maybe this one, you know, $1,200, $2,000 a month there. And your second one, that gets paid off. Maybe $3,000 a month there. Check that out. 2 plus 3, that's 5,000. So you're over $10,000 a month. Boom. It all comes down to one thing, folks: discipline. I can teach you these numbers all day long, but if you don't have the proper discipline in place, you're not going to meet that. This strategy is not hard. It all starts right here. This 70-10-10-10 strategy starts here. Living within your means, being able to save that 10%. This 10% paying yourself is what's going to start it all, right? Being able to start it all right here. Put money down on a home, right? This it could start right here, you know, for your first time home. You start right here, not taking anything away from your living expenses, right? If you properly establish yourself to be sure whatever life happens, you can manage it here. So it does impact the way that you invest and the way that you're saving for yourself, and doesn't mess with your giving strategy. It all starts right here. Having that proper coverage, being a responsible individual in the world that doesn't cost you any more money than you need to pay out the unnecessary stuff, speeding tickets, going to jail, you know, any of those type of things, right? Taxes, be sure you got that in place properly, right? Be sure you got excellent credit so you can leverage opportunities as much as possible. And then what is the strategy? How many homes do you want to buy over time? Maybe it's beyond 2, maybe 3 or 4. Maybe you want to be a real estate investor. And you can do that having the proper team in place. Y'all remember the proper team? CPA, attorney, CPA, attorney, investment advisor. Right? Those are the three main people you want on your team. You can also put, you know, a real estate agent there. You can also put a mortgage lender there, so you know, always have a go-to person for those opportunities, right? So those 5 individuals, that's your team. That is your wealth building team right there. And you don't need these cats immediately. It'll just grow over time. When you go to buy a home, now you have the real estate and mortgage professional taken care of, right? When it comes about that time to when you want to start investing, now you got that investment advisor in play. Now that you're having all these dividends and interest, you got a home in place. Maybe even starting investing in a small business. Then that's when that CPA and that attorney comes into place, right? So this is the wealth strategy all set out for you. So I hope this helps. And once again, I apologize that I missed class on Wednesday. I hope I made it up to you in this way. So now you don't have to take notes, right? Now you have a whole video you can reference over and over and over again. Like, all right, this is the strategy on how I can build wealth. So once again, it was great being with y'all in class. I hope you benefited in the information that was shared with the book or from myself. I wish y'all the best of luck and hope to see you around soon. Take care, guys.